So this chapter opens up showing us a young Hana Kurusu who's with a cursed spirit and two others who look a lot like Nanako and Mimiko if you ask me. And also the time frame for this also matches up because later on in the chapter we see Gojo with a young Megumi who looks around the same age he was when Geto went and freed Nanako and Mimiko from the village that they were imprisoned in because the villagers thought that they were doing some evil shit when in fact it was actually a cursed spirit. So I think that this cursed spirit might actually be the same one that we never got to see in the Gojo past arc. And I also have a video on Gojo's entire timeline if you want to go check that out after you've watched this video. But I thought this was a cool little wrap up from Gege here. Personally, it was information that I don't think was necessary to the story at all, but it does show just how in-depth Gege goes when it comes to wrapping up storylines. So I'm hoping that's the case all the way through for the rest of the series. But moving back to Yuji, Megumi, Hana, and Takaba, who we see are getting information out of one of the soldiers. And if you can't remember, in the previous chapter, the gang was just about to get into a skirmish with these soldiers, with Megumi saying how he'll find out for himself from the soldiers as to why they are here, which unfortunately happens off screen. I'm kind of sad about it. I would have liked to have seen the soldiers' reactions to Yuji's disgusting strength and seeing Megumi summon beasts out of shadows. It would have been cool to see that happen, but sadly we didn't get that. But the soldier reveals why they're here and how they're here, and that's basically to capture sorcerers to use them as self-sustaining energy sources over in the US of A. And Hana mentions how she's surprised that that's never come up in Japan, with Megumi saying that the head of the Jujutsu headquarters basically holds the reins of power in this country, which again is Gege tying up loose ends here, with Megumi also saying that there's no way Jujutsu HQ would popularize cursed energy as a renewable source of energy because they're so proud to do so. Something I do find interesting here is Angel calls Kenjaku a social butterfly, which made me chuckle because she's not far wrong when we think of all the players he's spoken to and made contracts with and enlisted them basically for the Culling games to be reincarnated into the modern day era basically. But we see Megumi starting to piece together Kenjaku's scheme, with him thinking to himself, did Kenjaku place all of the rules for the Culling games here just to distract us from his real plan, which as we know is exactly what is happening right now. And we also get a little reference to Reggie Star, who mentioned that Kenjaku will drop a bomb once the games have served their purpose. So the foreshadowing and the callback to that back then was absolutely insanely incredibly real. But Yuji interrupts by saying let's save them, meaning the soldiers, with Angel instantly responding no. And Takaba, being Takaba, says we don't want to mess with them, like, because they want to mess with our bodies and maybe they'll do lewd things to us, which honestly only Takaba in this situation is going to come out with something just exactly like that. But Yuji and Angel get into this little heated debate, the immovable object versus the unstoppable force basically, and Angel goes on to say how in colonies 1 and 2 50 sorcerers have already been defeated, and we get a little note referencing to Kashimo and Higuruma, who are majorly responsible for this. But in the colony that they're in right now, which is colony number 1, there's already enough cursed energy within that colony, to which Yuji replies with, so what? And again, Angel doubles down by telling Yuji, whether you save the soldiers or not, the result won't change if there's already enough cursed energy within the colony. And again, Yuji, looking even more determined and I dare say hostile, replies with, so what? Honestly, you can really see the main protagonist and the protector in Yuji coming out here. Again, doubling down on his grandpa's wish and stuff like that to save as many people as possible. So this is very on par for Yuji here, but he is definitely a lot more standoffish in this chapter, which we'll find out in a little bit why. But Angel goes on to say how he and Hana coexist, and that's why Hana's risks are also Angel's risks, and they'd rather not get into pointless fights, which is a stark contrast from Yuji and Sukuna, who Sukuna will actively throw Yuji under the bus just for the sheer fuck of it, for entertainment's sake really. And it just really shows the difference between Angel and Sukuna and how they differ in their views of their hosts / vessels, basically. But Yuji tells Angel, don't order us around. I've never trusted any of you. And Megumi looks kind of confused at this. And Hana asks if Yuji was talking to Angel or Hana. But right after this little debate, Hana is seen saying the words disgusting. And honestly, it kind of confused me at first, but then I realized it was the way that the panel was. I feel like it also could be Gege kind of leaving it open to interpretation. But she's saying disgusting something about the soldier who is basically on a fishing hook in front of her, but this soldier is literally being used as bait by a cursed spirit who's just doing a little bit of fishing. And honestly, Gege never fails to impress me with just how brutal and awful some of these cursed spirits look and act. But we get more Yuji and Megumi dialogue where Megumi speaks to Yuji and he says how he didn't mean, you didn't mean what he'd said there, and instead was referring to Sukuna and Angel, which is completely understandable for Yuji to be distrusting of Angel, considering the last talk-in-cheek mouth thing he encountered and came into contact with made him annihilate almost the entirety of Shibuya and anyone and everything in it. So it's pretty understandable that Yuji is distrustful of any talking mouths on cheeks. But the chapter, for me personally, seems a little bit all over the place, I will say, because right after this, we go back to the flashback of Hana, describing how everyone knew that the curse at the beginning of the chapter wasn't their mother, but they wouldn't do anything to disobey it or whinge or cry about it, because anyone who did would just go missing, quote unquote, and that's obviously, we already know what's going on with that one, really. But she goes on to talk about how one day she met a dog with a white fluffy tail and followed it, and it led her into the path of a younger Gojo and young Megumi here. But Hana goes on to say how she just wants to become worthy of standing by Megumi's side. And also, while this is happening, we see this reference of the famous Michelangelo painting, painting Hana and Angel in this even more godlike stature. And if you remember a while back there, Hana referenced God, and I talked about it in a previous video about if Sukuna is the quote-unquote devil of this universe, it would make sense for there to be an opposing force, like a god, realistically, which I thought was a very interesting aspect of Jujutsu. I would like to see that more explored upon, like gods and devils of the universe, basically, if curses exist, which Angel just so happens to mention in chapter 199 as well. But Hana then goes on to say how she will save as many people as she can, and we switch back to Megumi questioning Yuji about why he was so standoffish with Hana and Angel earlier in the chapter, and Yuji reveals that he was worried about Hana replacing Nobara. And honestly, this one hit deep, bro. This one hit deep to read, because so much has happened with Yuji since Nobara's like passing, quote unquote, that it's easy to forget that only happened a couple of months ago in the series. It's November in the series right now. Shibuya incident happened in October. That wasn't that far long ago for them, so it's quite fresh. And Yuji is obviously still reeling from seeing that kind of brutal thing happen to one of his closest friends. So it's cool to see Nobara getting referenced here. But Megumi tells Yuji not to be so stupid. So that's, in other words, he's basically saying, like, no one's ever going to replace Nobara. You need to relax. Everything's going to be okay type deal. And he goes on to tell Yuji to apologize when they meet back up with Angel a little later, to which Yuji agrees, because we like Yuji. He's obviously a good guy. Honestly, I can see a lot of fans of Nobara taking this mention of Nobara as a sign that she's basically still alive, and we're just waiting to heal up properly to rejoin the gang here. And I'm still remaining on the fence about Nobara's situation. I don't want to let myself get my hopes up that she comes back, and she just doesn't, because apparently this series is coming to a close this year, which means we probably got around 40-ish chapters left. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really want to get my hopes up about it. I'm very nervous about the ending of Jujutsu right now, but I'll get into that in a separate video. But the chapter closes out with Hana, Yuji, Megumi, and Takaba all rejoining up together, and if I'm not mistaken, we just got our first ever fourth wall break with Takaba openly acknowledging that he's in the last panel. And I could be wrong, but like it's definitely cool to see nonetheless. We got our own little Jujutsu Deadpool here, just breaking the fourth wall. But overall, super happy with the chapter and what it brought. I've got a feeling we'll end up back with Kenjaku and seeing what's going on that side now, because this chapter felt like we sort of closed off the Yuji, Megumi, Hana section of the story here, but I could be wrong. Anyways, that's everything from me. Let me know what you thought of the chapter in the comments down below, and as always, I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do enjoy the video, and as always, much love, big kisses, bye.